Welcome to Impact and Influence, the podcast for real estate business owners and professionals who are ready to make a bigger impact, scale, have greater sustainability, and increase their influence. This series opens the door to the sharpest minds across the industry, including agency owners, advisors, and trusted partners who share real-world insights and lessons learnt. These are short, practical conversations designed to save you time, sharpen your strategy, and help you build a business by design, not by default. If you're responsible for growth, profit, client experience, leadership, recruitment, or retention, this podcast is your go-to for smarter choices and more decisive leadership. It's proudly presented by REGROWTH. We are a coaching and consulting business for the real estate arena. We help you build on capability, connection, and curiosity. Okay, everybody, super excited to have Gary Peer and Phillip Kingston from Melbourne with us today. Two incredible leaders in our business. I can't wait for this. I'm ready for a little bit of banter, but more importantly, I'm ready for the learnings. Phillip and Gary, how are you?
Terrific, Carly. Living the real estate dream, Carly.
This podcast is launching a new financial year, so we're just slightly prior pre-recording, and I definitely want to get Gary and Phil on as one of our earlier guests because they've definitely had an impact and influence in my life at when I was at Di Jones and now in our business, and I say that sincerely. They're incredible operators. They've got a great business and they just get on with it. But the thing I love about Gary and Phil, besides their sense of humour, which is pretty wicked, is the fact that they are just normal. They do normal. They don't do bullshit. And what they say they're going to do, they do, but they're always curious about getting better. So I'm going to start with a little bit of an intro question to you guys, rather than me telling your story, is Gary and Phil, starting with Gary, how did you meet?
Well, we were both sent away to summer camp by our parents, who no doubt were equally relieved to be rid of us over the summer period. We met on a bus. I was the second last person to get on the bus.
You weren't late? Didn't sleep in?
It's characteristic for me to be late, but uncharacteristically, Phillip, through no fault of his own, because he was driven in from Cootamundra. We met on the bus and sat with each other, and on it went from there. Saw the world in a very similar way, and we both struck up a friendship when we were about 12 years old, I think it was, and that was 50 years ago.
And Phillip, tell me, how old did you say you were then?
12. It's a real sliding doors story because if I'd been on time, who knows where I would have sat.
Tell me about your professional studies in real estate, Phillip, and what that looked like with your real estate license.
I remember growing up and my parents coming to my parent-teacher interviews at Cootamundra Primary and Cootamundra High School, where the teachers, and keep in mind this is a long time ago, and not many people from Cootamundra used to go to universities, and they said, oh, look, Phillip Kingston, your son, he's got the capability and the intellectual capacity to go to university. Like university was a big deal, but they used to say if only he would concentrate in the class. So they were basically telling my parents I was academically capable if I could sit still. What they didn't do back in those days was diagnose ADD or ADHD. So I got the second lowest VCE score in the year that I did it, but I did beat Gary by 1 mark. So true story. I clocked in at 51. He clocked in at 50%. So I was never able to concentrate learning anything unless I learnt it in real time. So I was a great believer. For me, what worked was actually doing stuff. In order to get my real estate license, so when we set up Gary Peer & Associates, it was meant to be Gary Peer & Associates for the first 12 months. And by the end of 12 months, I would have finished my real estate degree at Swinburne University at the time. And then we were going to change it to Peer Kingston. The first 12 months came and went and I hadn't finished the second 12 months, the third 12 months. 25 years it took me to get my real estate license. And when I rang Swinburne for my results and said, can you send me through all my results? They said, oh, there must be a problem here because it says that you enrolled 25 years ago. I said, yep, there's no problem. Those are my results.
I get asked all the time, particularly with your partnership, because it is one of Australia's most successful long-term partnerships, not only in real estate, but in business. And all the time, how come Phil's name's not on the door? And that's the story behind it.
That's the reason. By the time I got my license, we were an established brand. It also suits me because when I stuff things up and the client's unhappy, I just say, look, you know what? I'll give you Gary Peer's number. He'd be happy to take the call.
And people think we're joking. So let's talk about that, because he is joking. If it's in his swim lane, Phil will definitely handle it. So can we talk about swim lanes and what you do? There's so much I want to talk to you about. Gary, what do you do and what are you responsible for in the business, and how did it get to that space? So you opened in 1986, I think. Is that right?
I mean, what do I do? I guess if you asked Phillip, he'd say not enough. But what I do is we both have our strengths and our differences. And I think, our enduring friendship and partnership has been very much due to a very similar set of values. I think that's been key to our success. But I'm probably more, we both were sales agents for a number of years before we opened up. So we both understood listing and selling. And I think that's always at the core of every real estate business and every real estate transaction. I found that my strengths were far more structural, in terms of property management. Firstly, my history was property management. Phillip, although was thrust into being active in property management when we had our business and opened, and we both did everything. I worked in property management for quite a few years. So that was a very big area of importance to me, which I kind of branched off and took care of. Although I have only a small involvement today, thanks to our great managers. Also, I spend probably a lot more time with now the partners. I spend a lot of time on setting up our other businesses with, obviously, in consultation together with Phillip in branching out. And I regularly meet with our partners and deal with that part of our business, and also co-mentor a lot of our team, do a lot of our training as well. And I think both of us probably equally are, particularly these days, very obsessed with just maintaining our standards, and trying to catch out people doing the right thing, but also looking at the things that we can improve on, day to day. And I also list and sell. I'm still very involved in listing. Phillip and I never really run away from that. So, we're just working all the time on improving the business wherever we can. But that would probably be my niche more so than Phillip's. That property management and partnership.
And Phillip, the swim lanes that you're in, and was it always that way, or has it evolved that way?
I think one of the reasons for my personal success is that I managed to find a partner with very different skill sets. We've got a fabulous business relationship, but we've probably got as equally good personal relationship. So, I think that we've been both lucky to find a partner that reflects our true beliefs in life. So I just want to deal with that very quickly and say that we're very different people and we have very different skill sets, but we both have each other's back 100%, and we both allow each other to make decisions 100% without us, even though we tend to check in with each other. We share the same office, so it's almost impossible for us not to check in, but we both have 100% confidence in each other that whatever the decision that gets made, it will be the right decision, even when it's the wrong decision. I genuinely mean that by saying that if Gary makes a decision, then I know that he made that decision in his best faith with all of the knowledge around it. And if it happens to be wrong, and, he's not wrong often and I'm not wrong often, but if we are wrong, we both will just cop it on the chin immediately and not think about the fact that, oh, you could have done it better, or I could have done it better, or we should have talked about it. We've just got complete blind faith in each other, knowing that the decision, whether it's right or wrong, will have been made with the best intent. Both of Gary and I are 24/7, 365, and I know that's a bit of a cliche, but that is the simple truth, is that we can speak to each other and often do with whatever the waking hour is. We're just available to each other 24/7, 365. There's no such thing as I'm on holidays, I can't deal with it, or if we're up and we can communicate, we will. In terms of the swim lanes, Gary's got a far greater attention to detail than I have. I'll throw up as many ideas as he'll throw up, but the reality is I won't follow through on many of mine unless I absolutely have to. And I know that Gary, if we both agree that it's a good idea, he'll follow through on it. So his attention to detail is much better than mine. His desire to be involved in property management as much as he says he's got limited involvement. I have zero involvement because it just does my head in. And I've got great respect for our property managers and everybody in our property management department, full respect and absolutely love the work that they do. But it's not an area that I want to get involved in. I tend to be a lot more involved in the marketing of the business, the look and feel of the business. I'm shorter tempered than Gary, so I'm far more explosive, which is, I think, in many respects a good thing because the place needs shaking up from time to time, and I'm more likely to explode in the positive and also explode in the negative. So I think that I bring a lot of energy to the business, and that's not to say that he doesn't, but his energy is a lot more consistent. Mine is much more explosive for good and for evil.
I don't know about for evil. I think also, Phillip does tend to work with very actively with all of our prestige sales, more so than myself. He's right on the top of our big deals, which is always exciting and a great credit to him. And also our project marketing team. I talked about my involvement with our partners and our other offices, but the project marketing team has been much more Phillip's baby than mine. He has, his son in that division who's fantastic and is doing incredible work. And also the image of the not just the business, but the people within the business. Phillip's got a great sense of style. I've got very little idea and little care, other than I know it needs to be good. We're very lucky in that respect.
I think something that we're all getting around the partnership is that the mutuality and the importance of the respect and the values. You can hear it, you can see it. Definitely when you're in your offices, you can feel it. So let's talk about the offices for a minute. Phillip, if you could give everyone a bit of an idea around how many sales officers, how many salespeople, and whether or not you're sort of private treaty or auction-focused business, because we've got people listening from Australia and New Zealand.
So we've got 7 physical locations, 2 offices in St Kilda, 2 offices in Caulfield, 1 in Carnegie, 1 in Murrumbeena and 1 in Bentley. We've got a core staff of around 150 people. That does include a number of part-timers that are part of our hospitality division. But call it 150 people. We have anywhere from 12 to 16 people fluctuating in the Philippines. They do a lot of our administrative back-end work. They're really fabulous. That's been a really good part of our business that we put our toe in the water with one, and we'll continue to grow that. So I wouldn't put a number on our actual sales people that are writing actual business. It's probably in excess of 40 people. But between all of our areas of the business, there's around 150 people.
Okay. And marketing, you said you looked after the marketing division.
Yep.
Do you have anything offshore, or is it all your marketing teams here, and what does the marketing team do?
We have some of the admin from marketing done offshore. So we've got a really good core group in our marketing division led by a fellow by the name of Adam Lipsick. We are about to make a major investment in our marketing division. I'll release more about that to you later, Kylie, but we're about to, I'd say, double the investment in our marketing division. And that's something that I spend some of my time involved there. Again, look, that department runs itself pretty well, as do most of our departments. But if there's an area of responsibility that gets divided up between Gary and I, the marketing area is something that I take responsibility for.
And the hospitality division is something that you mentioned, which is truly unique and a wonderful thing. Would you like to let our listeners know a little bit about how that works, how long it's been going, and what the purpose of it is? So
we've got 2 coffee vans, fully branded coffee vans that we use at our auctions, and we also use them for a lot of charity work. So the DNA, and getting back to the original starting part of the business, when Gary and I met, it seemed that we were, even as 12-year-olds, totally in sync with our values around family and the world as much as 12-year-olds can. But, family and community are hugely important to us. In fact, they are the 2 major pillars in our life. So everything we do is around building careers for our extended family, which is our real estate family. But our personal family is critically important to us. And therefore, the community is really important. So those are our big pillars of the business. So our hospitality division we use for auctions on Saturdays and Sundays. We do a lot of charity work midweek and on the weekend work. So we'll send those coffee vans free of charge, where we pay for everything, to schools and charities. And then we have a function centre, which is also doubles as our project marketing division, but it's got a fully set up bar and kitchen. And we do a lot of functions there, both for Gary Peer functions, but also for charity functions. So we make that room available. It seats 60, 70 people. And a lot of the local charities will book that for certain functions. So again, our hospitality division, we provide that function room together with full staff for various community organisations.
And it's a really great client experience. I love walking in there and, Kylie, would you like a coffee, or is it the skim latte still? It makes you feel really good. And I know that both of you are huge on client experience. And it's always, how do we get better for our customer? Internal customer being your people, I want to talk about first. Gary, with your internal customer, you have a pretty incredible average retention rate there, and you've got a club where you celebrate how long people stay with you. Could you talk to us about the club, the average tenure, and why you think that is so?
Yeah, we've got a 10-year club, which, it's nice to see people, I think, approaching that, kind of aspiring and excited about it. This year we hit 40 that have been with us for 10 years, I think 41, which is great. Look, our people, I think our view, I guess, and our philosophy of our people is a little bit different to maybe, I'm finding a bit different to how others. It's really not about what we can get out of them. It's really about, I guess, how we can all connect together and grow together. And we always want our people to be on a growth path if they want to be. Some people just say, look, I'm great here. Just leave me alone. Let me do that. And that's fine too. And we'll look after them.
Important to know that though, right? Know who to push and who you've got permission from.
Yeah. I mean, look, you learn lessons, We had a great receptionist, I remember, who, we kept saying, look, why don't you go into property management? You'd be fantastic. You'd be great. You're smart and you've got all of the attributes of someone who'd be great in property management. And she eventually left and became a receptionist somewhere else. And we learned from that, as we've learned from all of our mistakes, that, some people, you just got to let them enjoy and do what they want to, and you can push people too hard too. But I think that, when you said hospitality, Phillip jumped in with the coffee van, and he's right. But I also think about hospitality internally, for our own people. And, we've done some great things in terms of our shoe nights for our ladies in our office, which has been great fun.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit, because a lot of people listening may not have heard about that. I mean, you guys spend a lot of time and money and labour being one-on-one with development, with team events. I mean, your Kickstarts are legendary, right? So can you talk about some of the things you do for your team with respect to the shoes and the suits and your quarterly awards?
Yeah, look, we have a program. I mean, we have a program annually, and it's interesting. Some of the things that we've done, we're glad that we've done, but also it's important sometimes not to always create an expectation. It's like a relationship that you can do too much sometimes. So sometimes it's better to,
too much.
And I don't think we've ever thought that until maybe just recently. And like now we've got planned, we're going to get some food vans to come and visit our offices. We're just about to set that up, which we've never done before. But the shoe nights were something that we've done, and it's great. We take all of our ladies out. We did it as a mystery for the first few times, where we just got a bus, picked them up, took them to a wonderful shoe place, and everybody got a pair of shoes, basically. And if anybody wanted to buy extra, we got a discount for those. And it really came through one of Philip's assistants that was with us for years. We said, what can we do? And she said, the way to a lady's heart through her feet, So we did that. But we have a great kickstart. That's become very difficult to beat year on year.
Year on year, yeah.
Really difficult. 2 years ago we had Andy Lee, and for those Victorians, Nathan Buckley, who's a famous football trainer and mentor and identity, I should say. This year we had some wonderful and fascinating people, and I know we picked your brains for some of your talent too, Kylie, that you're exposed to. So the Kickstart is for everybody. It's a terrific event. Start of the year, everyone's in that and involved in that, and we've had a few gifts waiting for everybody when they've got there the last few years as well. Then we have our team nights, our award nights, our end of year function. We've done some incredible things, ranging from flying everybody mystery flight to Sydney, hiring out the island, and having live music and a cruise, and which was unbelievable until we all got basically barred from the aeroplane when we came back, all a little bit too jovial. So we can't get any more planes. We've done that. They won't have us anymore because we're just a bit too raucous. But we've done some great events. We have a lot of fun. We give a lot of recognition and we celebrate all of our wins as they go, and also in our different team nights that we have.
I think, Carly, look, the reality is we spent a lot of time and we spent a lot of money doing stuff. I think there is always an appetite to do more. But, at the end of the day, we're always quick to spend. I think that the philosophy has always been about giving what we can give. And we can clearly see, in comparison to a lot of agencies around Australia, we spend a lot more of our own money investing in things that will engage our team. Is it perfect for everybody? I'm sure it's not. But on balance, I think the only way that we can prove that it must be worth something is because we do keep people for a lot longer than most people keep their people. And I think you only ever keep people employed for a number of reasons. One of them is you have to obviously pay accordingly, but if you create an environment that is a warmer, more caring, more friendly, more generous, then they're more likely to stay. People will always move on. There's always a normal attrition rates in most businesses. I think we've probably got one of the lower attrition rates because we like to give, and we know that when we do give, it's generally well received. So I think we probably spend more and do more than what we could, but we're happy to do it.
And we try to do that collectively, but also personally, as well. So, whenever there's anybody's birthday or anniversary, I always reach out to them personally. And so you spend more time at work with your colleagues than you do with your family at home. That's the reality. So, it's important that people should feel, respected, empowered. They should feel the gratitude. We never feel like, we feel that we're lucky to have them, and I think a lot of businesses think, well, you're lucky to have us. And maybe they probably are as well, but we never take our people for granted. And I think in any relationship, that's important. If you take your partner or your people around you for granted, then, things can erode over time or sometimes very quickly.
I think you've sort of hit a nail on the head there. Every relationship or solid relationship is built on trust. Gary, you have a cracker saying about trust. What is it?
I say that the worst truth is always better than the best lie. So
just fantastic. It should be a T-shirt sold at AREC or most conferences, I think. I'm very mindful of the time I've had you on, but I've got 2 or 3 more questions if I can just power through, because I'm also mindful of your attention span, Phillip, but you're with us, so that's great.
Very good. He's done well, hasn't he?
I turned my phone off. It's killing me.
Oh, okay. Well, we won't let you miss anything. I'll text you to make you feel good. Salespeople is something that you are both pretty passionate about, and you have had a great pathway to partnership, and you've brought in some of your key salespeople into that. But something I've really noticed is the emphasis or the importance of your partners and your leaders in your business showing up to events, showing up to community collaboration, and showing up to sales meetings, etc. What sort of ethos do you have around that, Phillip, and how do you encourage that, and how do you have sort of rules of engagement around that showing up, being present, and the best version of yourself?
Look, I think that any leader that comes on these podcasts and says that they're doing everything perfectly is a leader that's delusional. We are a work in progress constantly. I think that, with all of our partners, all of them, look, because we're so 24/7, 365, it's pretty hard to get to know your partners. So our partners come in with all strengths and weaknesses, as do Gary and I. So there are some that need to be counselled more often than others about the whole concept of showing up. And sometimes individually we're so busy that going to another function is just, you just don't have the mental capacity for it.
Yeah, sometimes it's just too much, right?
Well, that's it. And because we've got a lot going on, sometimes I can look in my diary, and I speak on behalf of our partners. You look in your diary and you think to yourself, another function, I've got to show up. And if I'm going to show up, I've got to show up with some sort of bounce and bubble and
energy
and happiness. So it's just a constant battle, Kylie. But I think all of our people, and we're now speaking about directors and partners, they're all super people, and they all know what they need to do. But sometimes they need more encouragement. And it's one of the things that I've always said about Gary and my relationship, because we're so connected. We're both human beings, which means he can be up or I can be down, or vice versa. We're not constantly 24/7 just fabulous, up, energized people.
It's not human.
I've always said, I've said this personally, I've said this privately, I've said it professionally. One of the greatest things that I have in my life is that I know that Gary, if I'm down for whatever reason, the chances are he's there to pull me up. And I'd like to think that that's vice versa.
Of course.
And I think that's the same with our team. At the end of the day, one of our team members might have had a horrible run, both personally or professionally, and it's our job collectively to have each other's back. So, we do a lot. Showing up is important. They all know it. But I think as the prime leaders of the business, Gary and I, we owe it to them to be there for them when they need picking up, because we're older, wiser, more experienced, more scar tissue. And, to a degree, we're doing this more these days for the love and the passion of the business and the people than we are needing the last dollar. And don't get me wrong, this is not us or me flippantly saying we've got more money than we know what to do with. We certainly don't. But I think one of the joys of getting older, Gary and I are fully energized, so we're not going anywhere. But one of the joys of getting older is you kind of become a bit more philosophical about what you truly need. And what we truly need as we get older is better relationships before we need more money.
That you can count on. Absolutely.
Both are brilliant, don't get me wrong. But I think that our job as more the elder statesman of the business is to understand that we're there to carry our team when they need carrying, rather than trying to screw the last dollar out of the business. I think we're also an interesting business, Kylie, because I think we're a lowly geared business. We know this because we kind of go to enough conferences to know the bottom line and balance sheets of other businesses. We laugh, and this is said with no disrespect to those that are on their second and third marriages, but we're pretty boring people. First wives, no holiday houses, no boats, no second cars. I think the path that we tread is a genuine path, because the things that are important to us are the things that Gary and I are steadfastly committed to, which is family, community, solid relationships, building careers for people, and having a business that gives back.
And I think it's probably a great time for me to say, with all sincerity, I get socially excited when I catch up with you both, because you're just both so normal. But the importance of sustainability in our industry, I don't think there's enough laser focus on it. And I would like to finish there with both of you. If we look at sustainable business practices or sustainable partnership practices, I think we've heard a lot around that today. But I love going to some conferences, and I love talking to some people in our industry. People who are highly energetic, whose opinions matter, who are good humans, who are kind, and you both are. But I want to ask you both a question to finish up on today. Our greatest learnings come from our greatest adversity, or the things we stuff up. We don't always get it right. And Phil, you're always really vulnerable with that. And Gary, you're great at showing up to so much learning and development, because you're both so much curious about how we can get better. Phil, your passion around client experience is extraordinary. But what have you really stuffed up along the way? And what's been your greatest learning? And what advice would you give to other principals that are trying to compare themselves constantly to other businesses, which isn't always the wisest thing to do? Gary?
Look, I don't think we've got long enough to talk about all of our stuff ups because you're trying to wind us up, right? So
that's me too, right? Like your best learnings.
Yeah. Look, I don't know if there's any one stuff up. I mean, we always try to look at the errors of others. I mean, we both worked somewhere else, before we opened our business, and we always we had some really good mentors and some fabulous mentors. So we like to learn, but we also saw the errors of their ways, and probably the biggest errors that we saw was that they didn't do anything to bring people on. They didn't do anything to bring people forward. And we could see that company that just dissolved, we thought, well, that's going to be us if we don't bring people on. So we've got to bring people up and bring people on. And we genuinely enjoy that anyway. I mean, I get people talk about retirement. There's people our age that are retiring or looking at it, and it's not even contemplated for me, and I'm sure Phillip is the same. We feel like we're just getting started in so many respects. Yep. So the joy for me is the success of the people who have grown into business with. And I think just to go back, and I know I'm getting a bit off track, but, just when you talked a bit about, the partnership and some of the key benefits or maybe the biggest win we've had is the fact that our people know that we have a great trust in each other, Phillip and I. So that has filtered down to other people. So I think trust is the most important element. And from that point of view, I think that it's been probably the best thing that we've been able to share. In terms of errors, I think maybe compromising ourselves, at times, our standards, or maybe for, just bending too far for people who might not be doing things the way we think that they should be. I think we've learnt from that. I think there's probably been, maybe that's happened a couple of times along the journey where we just sort of maybe let a top performer just go a bit too far and didn't haul them in because they weren't really doing what we needed them to be doing for the betterment of the business and the brand. And our,
did you know? Did you feel it in your gut? Like, did you we should do something?
Yeah, well, I think we've jumped on these things pretty quickly, and there haven't been a lot of them because I think it stands out pretty quickly. It's almost like we don't have to do it because our people will say, how come that guy's doing that? Or how come they're doing that?
Above the line and below the line behaviour. Yeah.
And it's difficult, because they could be a good person, just making bad decisions, and then if they can't then change their way to prove that they're a good person, making good decisions, then sometimes you've got to make that step. And that's something that maybe has been, a learning along the way. But, I think there's I don't think there's any one big error that we've ever really made that we look back to, because we're able to compromise. And, our philosophy has always been, if Philip's more passionate about something and it's not a great expense to the business and he wants to do it more than I don't want to do it, then I'm going to concede to that. And if it's something that I'm going to object to more greatly than he's passionate about, then he won't do it. And if something I'm really more passionate about than he isn't, then he'll let me run with it. So I think that that's been a really big key to the enduring partnership and the harmony of our partnership. But look, there's always mistakes. We don't rate ourselves that highly. We think we're an accidental success.
I know you are so incredibly hard on yourselves, but I love that because you're always wanting to get better at being better, which is a wonderful thing.
We both rate ourselves 6 out of 10, both, but we always say that.
So, same number. I was about to say, Carly, we're perpetually stuck at 6 out of 10. We just do not seem to be able to crack a 7 or an 8. But in all seriousness, Carly, we truly believe that, but we also follow it up with, we're just lucky some of our competitors are 4 out of 10, right? So ultimately, we both live for improvement. We want to improve, and, we are not going anywhere. So we never have a feeling of, I've only got to do this for another year, 2 or 3. We're not going anywhere. Now, at the same time, we don't want to become the fuddy-duddy old men that should have left the business 10 years ago. We want to stay around as long as we're relevant. And the only way that we can be relevant is to constantly improve and constantly reinvent ourselves. But, to kind of wrap up and summarize the question that you've asked, what mistakes? Look, we've made every single possible mistake there is to make, sometimes a second and third time. But the one thing that we've never made a mistake around, as far as I can remember, is that our feet are on the ground around family and community. So we've never done anything that is morally wrong. I think, as far as I can remember.
I was hoping we might get there. That's
yeah.
I think important.
I think that as business owners and as the leaders of the business, because we are so in sync around values, and because our values are essentially family and community, we haven't looked to do anything quick or fast or cheap, or we've never wanted to cut corners. We're not people that play it loose and fast. So the mistakes that we've made have never been consequential. And any larger mistake we've made has been quite innocent. It's never been with, let's do this. We know it's wrong, but let's do it anyway. So we're not loose. We're not fast. We've always had this mantra that as long as we get rich slowly, we're okay. We've never had the vision of we're in it to make quick money. So this has been a business that we've known that we'll have a good life if we work hard and we're kind.
And play the long game.
So we've always played the long game. But if I had any advice to anybody, and I don't choose to give my advice to people outside my core group of family and community, is work hard and be kind. And if you think about it, if you work hard, you're likely to have more success than somebody that doesn't work hard. And doesn't mean you're going to be the best, doesn't mean you're going to write $3 million a year GCI. But if you work hard to your limitations, you'll get a better outcome than not working hard. I mean, both Gary and I are great believers in just the one basic element of real estate is work hard. That's not 40 hours a week. It's not 50. It's not 60. It's probably 70 hours a week plus. And if you put in those hours, you will get rewarded. Doesn't matter how dumb you are, you'll get more reward if you work harder than the next dumb person that doesn't work hard. And then if you wrap that up with some kindness along the way, people will remember you for being hardworking and a nice person. It's not brain surgery, this business.
I don't know if there's anything else left to say. Like, that is just, preparation and hard work equals opportunity. This podcast is all about sustainable business practices and leadership practices. So that puts really good perspective on it. And kindness is one of our core pillars in our business as well. So, gentlemen, thank you. There's so much more that we could talk about. I wanted to bring to Australia and New Zealand two wonderful people if they've not met you. I know that a lot of people know who you are. And Phillip, we don't see a lot of you out and about in the industry because you just get on and do what you do there. So thank you very much for your time. I know you're incredibly busy, both of you as sales agents, but thank you for sharing a little bit about your partnership journey, your values, and what makes Gary Peer and Associates what it is today. We are incredibly grateful for your time.
If I could just close off, and no doubt Gary will as well, but we are a better business for having been involved with you, Carly. We're almost getting a return on the incredible amount of money you charge us. But the truth is, there's never been anything great in life that was free or cost little. So yes, we are a better business, Carly, for having you as one of our mentors. So thank you.
And I'm glad you said incredible and not obscene, Phil, because that was much kinder.
Do you know what's so funny? It's for the man that loves the best hotels in the world and the best suits, you know what quality is worth, Phillip.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I'm always happy to pay.
And that's where we do think the same, Kylie, because I was going to say exactly the same thing. We are a better business for having had you involved. So we thank you for your role as well in helping us get another step ahead, or many steps ahead. So thanks, Kylie. Appreciate that too.
Thanks so much, Gary and Phillip. Lovely to see you. Bye.
See you, Kylie.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Impact and Influence. Click follow to get notified about future episodes. Leaving a review helps others find the podcast. And to learn more about our courses, our study tours, conferences, keynote topics and our services, or how simply we might be able to help support you in taking you to places you never thought possible, please visit regrowthkyliewalsh.com.